tight timeline. But the team really came together both on the side of the police department and on the school district side, and we put together what we think is a really good grant. And so we're going to be going out to get some things that will improve our security. Both front doors is something that we really want to focus on, so focusing on front door entrance security. And we also put some other pieces in there as well, such as cameras and a Raptor system, which is which screens for sex offenders. And so it would help us identify those things and helps just entry processes overall. So some really exciting things there. We're also going for an additional grant that the state of Minnesota is releasing, and that'll open up here towards the end of the month, and we'll find out in September, early October. We should know if we receive those funds, both on the federal and state side. And again, that grant will look very similar to the federal grant, and so if we don't get one or if we get the other, they can work together or they can work in isolation of each other to achieve some of the same safety goals. In addition to that, the board approved ALICE training, and so we've taken steps, and Gail and I have partnered on that endeavor, and we're looking at improving school safety through staff preparedness. Staff will get an initial training of about an hour at our back to school day on August 28th, and that'll be followed up by some more in-depth trainings throughout the year, and kind of a team will work together on an implementation process over time. Students will look and feel some subtle differences throughout the year and throughout the next couple of years, but these new procedures are really going to make our schools safer and make us more responsive to any potential threat that we would have in our schools. So we're really excited about that. Recently, the Duluth Community School Collaborative hosted a fundraiser, and they put on a show, Robin's Hood. That was really fun to go out and see just see the kids in action, meet a lot of great community members and parents involved in our community schools. It was really exciting to see the kids up there and just having fun. They really were there having a great time. It was a great cause, and we raised some great money for that as well. So thanks to everybody that was involved in that process. The last thing that I have on here is just staff one-on-one meetings. So I've had a chance over the last month and a half to really meet with most of our staff members. I'm finishing up with some of our principals right now and doing one-on-one meetings. We've had some really good conversations. Some things I've asked them really is identify their strengths, and that's a big part of my leadership is strength-based leadership and identifying what people's strengths are and trying to put them in positions to be successful. And so in sharing those, I'm really thinking how can we best use their strengths and their gifts and talents to support kids. And so staff were very good about identifying what their strengths were and ideas on how we can maybe use those throughout the district. So it's been exciting to meet everybody. It's been a fun, I think we're on week 6 or 7 right now. But it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of new learning, but it's been an incredible journey, and both the staff and the community of Duluth have just been extremely welcoming and helpful in that process. So it's a great partnership. It's a great start, I think.
Member Oswald, question? Comment?
I do. When we were at the MSBA summer seminar training last Monday, I had asked Commissioner Caselius during that Q&A period about what we do for schools that may not get the school safety grant and how that can be worked around. And her answer kind of surprised me in that, well, you guys got to figure that out, kind of thing. It's how you market it. You know, of course we're going to sell it well. But later on, I've wondered what our legal liability of something happening at a school that wouldn't get funded versus does. So I'm very happy to see a second opportunity in a different grant. But my question is, do we have plans or a backup plan for schools that may not get a grant from MDE?
That's a great question, and so we put a lot of thought into that and what we wanted that to look like. In order to have a great start to the school year, support our staff and all the different bargaining units that we have in order to make our schools still feel safe and welcoming, we thought it was really important to go after these grants first as a first step. And so that's what we've done. And so the first month of the school year, we'll have those ALICE trainings and different pieces there. We'll be taking a look at those grants, and then After we find out if those are awarded or not, we have actually 5 different options that we'll explore as a team and say, here's the advantages of this, this, and this, given our existing hardware and software with minimal costs, or within the fiscal opportunities that we have to spend resources on that. And we can come to a consensus about that and move forward with one of those 5 backup plans.
So I guess the follow-up question is, knowing that each building or each grant had to be submitted by building, was there one submitted for this building that would serve district needs such as infrastructure, or was it all based in each individual building?
In the grants, we looked at all the sites, all of our main sites, and so it does include some upgrades to this site as well, yes.
Okay. And one more question I had was, are the hourly employees, like the minimum wage workers that we've been talking a lot about, will they be included in the ALICE training? And when? Because I don't think they're included in the back to school training, so I don't know when they would get that.
We have purchased enough licenses to cover all of our staff, including substitutes, and so we'll be doing ALICE training as part of our onboarding process as well throughout the year. So as employees come on, they can still participate in that process, and so we have enough licenses to do that. So we'll make sure that everybody is a part of that process and really knows how to keep our schools safe and what those procedures should look like.
So playground workers and cafeteria workers should expect to have them before they start or sometime during after they start? I guess that's
Yep, everybody who comes back on August 28th will have that training, and so that is really the majority of our staff. Mm-hmm. Others will be picked up along the way as they become hired or onboarded, yes.
All right, thanks.
So, yep.
Good questions, and I'll just a follow up to Member Oswald because we were at the same session. So when we apply for the Minnesota grant, is it the MDE? Is it? So we were told that when we write that grant, you had to write it specifically for one school. Mm-hmm. Do we know what schools you wrote that for? Or well, it's August 29th is our submission, so we're not there yet. But is our plan to try to submit 13 for each one of our buildings? Oh, you are.
That is correct.
Well, that's aggressive.
So we've already started. We used a lot of the language from the federal grant, so that was actually a good process for us to get started with and to kind of get our ducks in a row. And so we have taken a sample site and we have written a plan for a sample site because some of the language is really kind of templated from site to site based on the different assessments and the work that we've done. So now that we've templated that, we've already started working on developing the questions. So when that grant does open, we will have each of our sites ready to go and we can just go. So, yep.
And I would imagine each of our sites have different needs, and you've looked at that and asked for appropriate monies.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
We've also done, we also did some, there's been a lot of different feedback which we outlined in the grant, which we've gotten from all of our different stakeholders, community members throughout the past year, as well as district assessments and research-based tools on how to do a risk assessment, and we've included those results inside our grant application, which identify some of the different needs, and we were able to highlight those, and those come from some nationally recognized institutes.
And so on August 29th, and we were told too that it really doesn't matter what time of day, because we've been hearing rumors around school board members that say, at 12:01 a.m. on August 29th, if you don't submit it, so the time stamp isn't going to be a deal that you have to do. So it just has to be though by August 29th.
Yeah, and I believe they have their priorities, which they consider kind of like priority one, and so we've looked at what they put as priority one, and we've tried to put those up front in the grant to try to secure that funding, to give ourselves the best chance of securing funding for each of our sites. So,
if I could add just a bit, they're date stamped, however, and there's 2 days to submit, so day one has first priority. So we will be sure to have ours in on day one rather than day two.
For sure. I don't know, I don't want to call you Gail. He says assistant, so Director of Curriculum, Netland.
Very formal. You can call me Gail, it's fine. Alrighty, so with my report, I've highlighted 3 pieces, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the first one because that kind of follows up from what Jeff was talking about with his. So for Staff Development Day on the 28th, we've got ALICE training coming out. That is one of the foci for the day. The other one is on reaching all kids. So we also have a morning keynote by a current principal, and I've spoken with him several times. He's got a very engaging manner of speaking. He's very audience interactive, and he's going to be using his background as kind of a motivator and then challenging staff for what can they do to impact, kind of a takeaway to start the year. So it's definitely a pick-me-up. And then we've got the more serious note of safe and secure schools, focusing on the ALICE training. Along with that, thinking about that this is a topic that can be kind of emotional for people. It's definitely a concern. It's an area of importance. We're going to be having some all-staff front-loading with Chief Tuscan is coming, and going to be talking a little bit about the importance of safe and secure schools, and we'll have some explaining of why ALICE and what it is, kind of some big picture overview before we move into the actual training piece of it. And then after that, we're also providing a follow-up time to ask questions and get some initial starting, and then use that to gather information for moving forward so that it's not just a one-day training, but it'll be part of a continuing process moving forward. Also, the day before that, we are having our new teacher orientation as well. So that's pretty much ready to go, I think. And then, let's see, anything else I wanted to say with that? I think that's enough for staff development at this point. Curriculum adoption process, just some updates. This was a piece that had started before I came, and so trying to get myself up to speed and find out about kind of history and connecting with different stakeholders and finding out what's been going on. And so I was trying to learn history and process conversations, met with department heads, met with ELA teachers, have heard back from different community groups about whether or not they would be available to be participating in the process moving forward, have heard back from all of them, and they are all interested. And so next steps looking forward is kind of a timeline for that, with the goal being books selected and in place by the end of the year. So kind of just brief update. Let's see. And the last part was just we had talked about the importance of policy review. And so you will see the first step for that later on the agenda tonight. But looking at having a regular cycle of reviewing and updating policy so that we're following MSBA template. So that is all I have for you this evening. Questions?
Member Oswald.
About how many new teachers will be participating in the orientation?
Ooh, it's several dozen. I don't remember the number offhand.
I like several dozen.
I don't remember.
That's important.
Greg Jones is the one who is setting that up. I do not remember, but I know it's quite a few.
But that's encouraging that we're getting new blood within our systems. And my other question is, as in prior years, our board members welcome to attend the orientation for some point, maybe the keynote or something.
Are you talking about the all-staff development day?
That's
or the
it.
new
Yeah,
teacher?
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that would be fine.
Yes. All right. I hope to make it.
Okay. Excellent. The letters inviting staff officially to it are going out later this week. Okay. So you should be seeing information shortly. But yep, at Denfeld. All right, 8 a.m.
Yeah, and as far as the at Denfeld, I participated in volunteering for the registration day today, and my entire 7 hours there was littered with the distinct buzzing of that far door opening and closing that people aren't supposed to go out by the media center. So we all know door alarms aren't a key to safety.
I was just, we'll send something out for that welcome back day. The beginning part of the day is when the keynote speaker is, and that would be great for everyone to attend. The afternoon, people are going to be in building groups, and that's probably a good opportunity to part ways.
So just a couple comments. I followed the link the other day for Principal L, and his little 3-minute recap, every child deserves someone that's crazy about them, is going to, be a really energetic start to a school year. So I look forward to his presence. So he comes to do our opening, and then there isn't a follow-up with his leadership or his ideas for taking it a step further. Or not.
So he is part of the larger idea of reaching all kids. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of the kickoff for that piece, and we'll have other things in that area, but not necessarily him.
I gotcha. And then just a clarification, because the English language arts selection process, we have the history as well, and you don't think we're going to find replacement material books until the start of fall 2019?
Oh, I can clarify. So the goal is that this year we will identify, narrow down, select, and then recommend for approval with then curriculum writing. So the goal is that they're in place by the end of the school year this year.
So second semester is when we've taught those novels before, which starts the middle of January. That's not the year you're talking about, or
yes. So in time for the end of second semester. So the title that's most in question is towards the end of second semester. Mm-hmm. So in place in time for that. So the goal would be to select and have recommend for approval probably mid-school year, with then time for curriculum writing following that.
So thank you for our reports, and I hope that you, as the months go by, you enjoy giving us your feedback and your reflections for the month. I think that really helps us understand and give you some feedback too. So we're calling up to the table Youth in Action. So welcome Tyler and Elise. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Well, I don't know if you guys remember, but I was here about a year ago. I was by myself at that point in time. We only had one coordinator, but I kind of was pitching the idea of Youth in Action going into the schools. And so last year, that was my objective, was to get into all the schools down here. Since then, we've expanded. So I'll let Elise introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Elise Rigney. So I am 2 months in, but I do have a lot of background in youth experience. I did 2 years of AmeriCorps in Hudson, Wisconsin with a small nonprofit called Youth Action Hudson. And then for the last 4 years, I've been working at the Duluth Entertainment Convention Center as the sales manager there, booking convention business. So really trying to bring people to Duluth and know what we love about Duluth and share that. So we're going to bring that into with the youth to be thankful for where they come from and try to give them some really great exposure to new experiences. So I'm really happy to be on board and love what we've done on the range and glad that we can be down here in Duluth now. So
last year we got into Duluth East right around our conference time, which is a second week in February. We were unable to get an advisor established in Denfield until June, so we didn't really have any programming within the Denfield school, but we do have Angel Peluso lined up to be our advisor now at Denfield, and we've met with her. Well, I met with her at the beginning of June, and then Elise and I met with her, as well as a couple student groups from the local universities about ways to get the students at Denfield more involved. You want to talk about meeting with Rich?
Yeah, so we met with Angel, and then we also got to meet with Rich from East. So we have 2 really great advisors at both schools, so we're excited to move forward with them. We shared some of the ideas moving forward. The big growth opportunity is to also offer community service opportunities that combined all the schools together. So we're trying to do some cleanups where we have everyone from all the different schools participating together, and then afterwards we get to enjoy maybe a hike with the Duluth experience, for example. So just trying to partner with these organizations that offer great experiences already, and we don't want to be competitive with what other volunteer opportunities are already offering around the area for young people. So Rich was really positive about that, and so was Angel, so we're really excited moving forward.
The common thing amongst anyone that we talk to is unifying the city and the schools, and so that's a big objective for us, is kind of to minimize that separation between the two schools amongst the students as well as the community. So with these hikes, these cleanups, these projects, that's what we're hoping to do, is get more students from each school involved, so there's more of a bridge there. So last year we did have East participate in our conference. This year it'll be February 11th up at Fortune Bay Casino. We had just shy of 400 students that participated. We had 8 breakout sessions that students from our other participating high schools put on ways that they can make a difference within their community. We had a motivational speaker in the morning, and then a magician for entertainment over the lunch hour. So we're in the process of getting our speaker and entertainment booked for that, but it's open to the public, and you guys are welcome to come up and take a look and see what's going on there. But we are hopeful that we will have more students from down here. We had 30 total from the 3 schools that came, so that was Proctor, Marshall, and East. East sent 9 students this last year, and they actually participated 2 years ago before the program was even down here as well. So I believe they sent 3 or 4 the first year that they participated. But then we also had a few students that got involved with PAFSA during their luncheon, as well as sitting at their booth at Buffalo Wild Wings for a day. So we had a few students do that. We had a few students help out with the Lake Walk pickup in late April. We had a beautiful day for that. And that's kind of where our programming was for the last year. But we, like Elise said, we're trying to expand this next year and get more students involved. We had about 6 students that regularly showed up at meetings last year. So, do you want to talk about communication and transportation?
Yeah, definitely. So with this, we've been trying to figure out the best way to communicate with the students through the advisors, obviously. We did talk with Proctor last night, too, and they talked about the GroupMe app that they use. And I don't know if that's also what the Duluth Public Schools use very generally. No? Do you know? Okay. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more with Rich, too, and with Angel, the best way to keep in touch with them, too. Just as opportunities come up, it's, if it's a weekend activity, to be, hey, reminder that we're going to be doing this here, and we'd love to have you there. So we're going to really try to focus on communication. And then transportation, too. So we do have motor pool for the county, so we have asked, too, that it's okay that we transport youth with that motor pool, so we can rent vehicles, passenger vans, anything like that to transport them for activities as well. So we just want to make sure that that's okay and that we have approval to do that and that we're not stepping on anyone's toes for that. So that's
all right that we transport students as long as we have the permission. We just want to make sure.
It's a more complex question. Are they doing this as a county activity or a school activity?
It'll be a county activity.
So I think as long as you have permission, that sign that says this is this is not a Duluth Public Schools activity, but a county activity.
Okay.
Then it's on the county's insurance rather than
Yep.
our insurance, and that's what that whole permission piece is about. So
Gotcha. Cool. And so the list, I don't know if you guys all have that in front of you or not, but I have one extra copy of that, and then as well as our service learning trip we took this last summer. But we've got a list of what Elise and I have been doing this summer. We've been meeting with local organizations, seeing where there are opportunities for students in the area to get involved. We've had dozens of meetings trying to set up different opportunities for these kids, and so we have a very wide range of opportunities that should hopefully meet somebody's goal at some point in time. So we have a lot of doors that we've opened, and hopefully we can utilize a lot of those.
Mm-hmm. And so that's our goal for the year, is really to increase participation for any of these organizations, either to be a liaison for them to be on a board for one of these organizations, to volunteer individually or volunteer as a group. And then also definitely the conference attendance, and then like Tyler said, the service trip. So we had a really great year. We went down to the Twin Cities. We had 6 different schools participate. We had 17 youth, and we worked at Feed My Starving Children, Ronald McDonald House, and Open Arms. So all just really unique experiences, and the youth had a wonderful time. So we would love to have Duluth youth participate next summer as well.
So that's kind of our stuff. If anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer anything.
Are you involved with We Day?
We were.
You are? Okay.
It's not happening this year, so we aren't going to be. The funding got cut, is from what my understanding was. So
Okay.
we've gone the last couple years to that, so we're pretty bummed out that that's no longer an option.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit more questions, but it's a hard place for me because I'm really here as a school board member, but yet I am a retired teacher from Denfeld and a debate and speech coach, and have always looked at opportunities for students as where we're going. So your program is exactly what we want our youth to do. My struggle is, there's a couple of questions, and Bill left, but maybe Jeff can answer it too, but I get kind of confused if Angel's going to take some of the lead at Denfeld and help us bring the Denfeld community students on board. I get a little, like when you ask the question about, is it okay to ride in cars? Well, if the school district employs Angel, where does her job as a full community service director, and then this offshoot advisory for Youth in Action, which is not a Duluth school activity, then where does that put Angel? That's one question. I don't expect you to answer it, but maybe, did you hear it while you were wandering around or no?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, I think that there's so many ways we can partner with East and Denfeld and Youth in Action, but yet, it's going to take some work. I talked with Angel this morning, and so I said, I'm going to have that organized, because she wants to talk to me, because she knows that I have a lot of connections, and I know you've tried to connect with me, and Beth Olson has reached out to me, and, just with all the other different pieces. But so just this week I was talking with the theater advisor, because all of us advisors and coaches at Denfeld were asked to volunteer at the Krause-Anderson bicycle race. Okay, all of us. Okay. So when I went to contact my speech and debate kids, well, they were already volunteering for robotics, and some of them were volunteering for the musical, and some of them were volunteering with their NHS program, and some of them. So Mr. Percy and I were sitting going, how can we come up with a group, which might be that all of us, the choir kids, the NHS kids, the student government kids, the Key Club kids, we all have an element of service. I even do on speech team. Yeah, I want my speech team kids in the Spirit Valley Day Parade, and I want them in the Krause-Anderson bike race, and I want them to volunteer reading at MacArthur. But when every organization in our building asks all the same students, we're going to be the students we're going to look to at Denfeld. I mean, I hope we find others. That's your goal.
Yep.
So, do you follow that? What are your comments about trying to, so that Denfeld, and I feel like we compete. Like I wanted speech to get a picture with the bike shirts on, and I could put it on our Facebook page and put it in our community that says the speech team, volunteered. But no, my speech kids were already with robotics, and they were already with the musical, and they were already with NHS. So where do we go with that?
Well, to answer the first part of that, Angel does get a stipend from St. Louis County for being the advisor, so we do pay her, as well as all of our other advisors. So she does get some compensation for that, as far as the money wise.
To be clear that those times where she's wearing that hat, it's not during the time she is working for full community service school, right?
Yeah, Angel's not a Duluth Schools employee. She is an employee of the Duluth Collaborative.
Okay, now you're right. Okay.
And then as far as programming goes, our biggest concern from anyone that we talked to last year when I was going around pitching the program was coming in and doing what everyone else has already done. We have a lot of programs established up on the range that we've done for years and years, and then we've talked about them, at previous meetings, and this group is doing that, or that group is doing that, and everyone's kind of pulling from the same pool like you talked about. And our goal is to not step on anyone's toes, to find different things that are being missed, different students that are being missed by some of those leadership roles, and give them their opportunities to go and do that. When it comes with Denfield in particular, we're meeting with them after school, which is going to be different than any of the other groups that we work with. Normally we do it at East, it's during the win hour, but we're going to be there after school twice a week instead of our typical once a week, and there's going to be another group or two there most of the time, and we're going to try and get kids in that don't have anything else going on, and trying to get them involved and show the students that maybe get overshadowed for those leadership roles, and give them those leadership roles.
And I do think, so, one thing is within the schools, all the projects that are happening, one of the really big goals, like I said, and like we've talked about, is really to make the program available to all students. So when we do an activity that's all together, it's not just for Denfield, it's not just for East, it's not just for Proctor. And even when we do a weekend activity, we can incorporate the range students to come down with Taryn and Angela from that program as well. So it's not just going to be one group or the other, it's really trying to bring youth together from all different areas. And there is, of course, that competitive. We don't want to compete with other organizations that are doing really significant work. And I think that's why we've really tried to connect with, we're just meeting with the Valley Youth Center this morning with Russ, and really talking about the youth that come to his programming and how we can make sure that they know that this program is for them. It's going to be driven by them. We're going to come with opportunities that they can look at and maybe take advantage of, but what are their interests and what do they want to dedicate their time through, and how can we help them be successful in that? So that really is the goal for us.
Cool. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes our presentations. We'll look over, we have some grant applications that we have been fortunate to receive or to apply for. So we'll look and approve those on next Tuesday. It's in your program. We've got a grant from the Northland Foundation for Jennifer Jaros in early childhood. We've got another Northland grant for Jay Rossler, our community ed, for an ECFE director. We've got another grant from the Northland Foundation, again for Jennifer Jaros and child care mentoring. So those three we'll look at. So that next brings us to action items and policies, the extracurricular and co-curricular. And I'm going to turn that over to Gail.
So we've got two pieces here for you. We are recommending deletion of policy 6140, extracurricular and co-curricular activities, and moving to the MSBA model policy with a couple of additions which we can take a look at, and adopting policy 510, school activities. So if we can pull that one up, that should be part of your packet there. Thank you, page 11. And I'm So one of the things we did when we took a look at the model policy and our current policy is we looked at what language did we want to maybe keep from the current policy, and looked at weaving that into the model policy so it still has that Duluth flavor to it. And you'll see that in red. We also just added a couple of clarifications when it said superintendent, added designee to make sure that we could use the person who actually was going to be doing that. Otherwise, not a lot of changes.
Member Oswald.
I'm looking under
Section 3, responsibility, the very last point E. And the last sentence, well, I guess it's the second half of that sentence. Maybe it's the whole sentence. The superintendent or designee shall be responsible for conducting an annual evaluation of school activity programs and presenting the results and any recommendations to the school board.
Good eye. And so that is something that we talked about ahead of time because that was a change in policy. And so that would be something that would be new with this.
Okay, so that was going to be my question is, does that happen? And if not, what is that going to look like when it does happen? What time of year does that typically happen? Because, we don't really typically see anything to do with hiring, anything to do with our sports programs unless it's a celebration of something good or just hiring the coaches.
Superintendent?
This is not something that happens. I do not personally evaluate our school activity programs. There is a list of programs that come to you within the student handbook. And I know that the ADs do follow-up surveys with participants. And so our ADs are doing some of that evaluation. It's not the same as a formal evaluation process that teachers or principals or others go through. If it were interpreted that the AD's evaluation of those programs was an evaluation, this would fit. Otherwise, I would recommend either charging us with developing an annual evaluation process or removing E and knowing that the ADs are doing some of their own evaluation.
Well, I think there's been some controversy in the past and during my tenure on the board regarding a sport here or there. And I, as a board member, would like to know that there's been a competent review of where the program is headed, and not just a list of what we offer. I would like to know more about our sports. Like traditions, like how many years in a row has Beach sent somebody to nationals? I mean, things like that elude me if I stop and think about it. Those kinds of things. I don't know if coaches want to be offered to coaches to come celebrate with us. I don't know how. I don't see an evaluation like a teacher evaluation. That would be too harsh. I mean, coaches are in it for very little money and a lot of satisfaction. So, and I'm not here to cause controversy with any of it either. But I would just like to know that we have quality programming and the direction they're headed and how it works. We spend a lot of money renting ice time and rinks and things for ice sports, and I want to make sure that golf or tennis is getting their fair share too. We want to invest in every sport that we offer as much as we're capable. So that's my 2 cents.
Superintendent Granson?
The more I think about this and the more I hear about it, the deeper and deeper it goes. When it says evaluate a school activity program, evaluating a program and evaluating the staff within that program are really 2 different things. And at the heart of that is what is the purpose of our programs? What are we hoping to accomplish with our programs? And so much of it is about student engagement and student involvement. And we know that when students are involved in activities, they feel more connected to school, and the more connected they feel to school, the more that they achieve. And so it's a very large picture, and how to evaluate those pieces, if those are our goals of having programs, then is it about how many students are participating and how often are they showing up, or is it how well the team is doing or how much they're winning? Or I think I think there's a lot to explore there. So if we were to do this, I think there's a lot of work behind that. So I'm not sure where to go with this. If we put it in policy, then we need to have some kind of charge to be really creating that.
Well, I think this fits very well within our levy questions, where sports was something that came up that Mr. Leatherman, I think it was, or Mr. Boris, I forget which one it was there, pointed out that was a unique thing, that sports was something that was celebrated and very high on the questionnaire. So I honestly think this would be giving, the development of something would be giving the community more reason to celebrate.
I'm wondering if, rather than saying something along the lines of an evaluation of the activities program and presenting the results, if it's not more, the superintendent designee will be responsible for providing just an update or a highlight of really the things that we're talking about, creating those engagement opportunities, creating lifelong learning experiences and lessons, and that they highlight just kind of how their programs are doing that. Those are some of the mission statements, I believe, of the Minnesota State High School League, or if it's not in their mission, that's kind of a general summary of what they're about. So we could take out the word evaluation, but still do an update to celebrate and honor the great things that they're doing, because I think there's a lot of pride in our activities, which we've seen, and that was in the old policy, so that might soften it up a little bit. Rather than doing a in-depth comprehensive evaluation of an entire system, maybe it's more highlighting how this is impacting kids' lives in a positive way.
You basically took the words out of my mouth. I'm not so much interested in hearing about the results. I'm interested in hearing about what's the mission of character development, engagement, and how are we serving that need. I think that's the great value in these activities and athletics. So if the board were to hear something, I'd like maybe some summary of that. Maybe summary is the right word. We engage this many kids. This is our mission and vision. This is how we're supporting our coaches in delivering programs that meet these criteria. Something like that I think would be
Cool.
helpful to hear from a board perspective.
So I'll chime in too, since I've spent 30-some years coaching here in our community. I do know that we do an exit survey in the sporting area. I think it's modeled around the Minnesota State High School League, Why We Play theme.
Yep.
And I think it's fairly well received and well carried out. At least in our building, our activities director is very clear from the get-go that this is going to happen at the end of the season. The students are dismissed from a certain hour and brought down to a computer lab and given the opportunity to complete the survey. What those questions are, I don't know. Like I said, I know that I would think that you might want to just ask our ADs what the surveys are and what do they do with them. But I do feel like just like we rotate presentations by schools, it would be nice to invite activity directors just for an opportunity to share exactly what Member Gorham said, just as informational at our meetings, so that we can celebrate that. What to do with Roman numeral 3, letter E is a question that we should look. Do we want to remove it so that we're not really? I would think that assistant superintendent, is that part of your job description, is to work with extracurriculars? Okay. Then just on a side note, they never ask fine arts to evaluate. So my debate team, speech team, theater programs never come down and fill out a survey, even though we're Minnesota State High School League activities. So I think we should be included.
My question would be why MSBA wanted to have that included in the policy. Is it part of that legal reference and the cross references they have in here? I don't know. is there a model policy person at MSBA that we call and say, why did you put this in here? I have no idea. And who makes that call? So
We can definitely look at this being a first reading. We can take this back and we can do a little bit more research on it. We can explore how some other places are doing it. We can get in touch with MSBA and come back with some recommendations based on us for our second reading at our next meeting.
I think that's a good step, yeah.
As a board member who has two students who are currently in multiple, well, we used to call them extracurricular, now they're called co-curricular or whatever the latest thing is. I can tell you that the evaluation by the parents and the students are often very different. And it is usually the parents who get upset and are most vocal in what they like and don't like about it. So I think that you need to look at that. And you just need to look at coaches that get fired at districts or parents that get into fights over games or kids not playing. So that what you're evaluating needs to really be looked at carefully to get something meaningful out of it, because there's lots of evaluation.
Just the fact that we've gone from a policy that is a paragraph to a policy that has multiple headlines and outlines and items under each makes a statement that, in our district we've had extracurriculars, and they've operated well, but they haven't really been included in part of a lot of our discussions and policies. So it's a good direction to review. Any other questions? Thanks, Gail.
Thank you.
So we'll have a resolution and grants to accept. We have diploma requests that we'll go through on Tuesday night. And I think, is there anything else on our agenda that we are in question about or in need to do?
I have a question.
Member Oswald.
Are we going to resume CIT teams visiting us, or was that just a one-year thing?
That is a great question, and I can't wait to get back to you on that.
I like your enthusiasm on that.
So I think we are adjourning our Education Committee meeting, and thank you and thanks to Youth in Action. We look forward to continuing a partnership and giving opportunity to all kinds of kids to go out and do lots of good things. Thanks a lot.
And don't forget to vote.